This is Ken Hurd, and we are today interviewing your name, sir?
James Benson.
And you are going to be talking about an event that you were involved in back in 1967.
Yes.
Could you tell us basically the surroundings for that event? What happened before it?
Well, there had been a lot of harassment, I guess, of students and African Americans in Philadelphia. And high school students decided to, and there was also controversy about the curriculum of the Philadelphia Board of Education. And after weeks and months probably of negotiations, our brethren in the high schools decided that they were going to demonstrate at the school board. And the day was to be November 17, 1967. And at the appointed time, students from all schools across the city and diocesan schools as well as public schools walked out of their classes simultaneously. And they all marched to the Board of Education. So that could have been as many as 15 miles away. And to voice their concerns about the lack of African American studies in the public schools. In addition to that, the then police commissioner, Frank Rizzo, was there with his stormtroopers. And of course, during that time, we're at a time when repression was the answer to everything by government. They didn't want things to spread out of control. And of course, Frank Rizzo, we always thought of him as a Taliban anyhow. And he gave an order at some point during the demonstration to attack their black asses. And like he was on some battlefield or something. I was one of the victims of the violence at the Board of Education, but police made no attempt to arrest me. And at some point, after they caused me to trip and hit my head against a metal light pole, I decided I'm not running anymore. I'll walk back across the police line and up Vine Street to a place called Doctor's Hospital, and sought treatment for, received several stitches above my left eye and my eyebrow. And it was probably one of the great births of the movement in Philadelphia.
You were beaten?
Yes, but not arrested.
And other students were beaten also?
Yes. I was part of a group of students that came from community college to watch over the demonstration and to show support to our high school counterparts.
Were you at all impressed with the way that the police acted? Were there any professionalized police activities, or was it just generally sort of mayhem?
A bunch of thugs is what they were. A bunch of thugs. They were not professional in any way, shape, or form, especially by today's standards. By that day's standards, they thought they were, but they weren't. But of course, you had a thug who was leading the police department, so what did you expect?
In terms of the students, what happened afterwards? The group that you were with, did they talk about this? Were they involved in any of it?
I don't remember the specifics, but there were many meetings across the city that led to a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit, to have the Philadelphia Police Department placed into receivership. And you had some great attorneys like Lois Forer, Almenina Barber, Oscar Gaskins, and there were many other ones whose names I don't remember. What was very interesting was a guy who represented the city in this lawsuit objected when I was called to the stand because, first of all, I had no record and there was nothing they could say bad about me. So they just stipulated that whatever I said, because they didn't want me on the stand. And a lot of, unfortunately, of our brothers and sisters had different records, which probably weren't very much, but they could use that to kind of destroy their credibility. In my case, I guess they didn't have anything, so therefore they preferred to paint a certain picture without people who, you know, they didn't want people who didn't have probably records or anything, because it would be injurious to their cause.
What was the court case hearing like? Was it sort of contentious? Were there people there?
Oh yeah, people were very angry about the events that had taken place on November 17th. And I incurred stitches for the first time in my life as a result of the police violence. And as far as I was concerned, they all should have been thrown out. And the mayor of Philadelphia should have been thrown out, Jim Tate, because he's the one who appointed that bastard as the police commissioner.
In terms of the students that were there at Community, afterwards, how were they feeling about this whole situation?
Nobody was feeling good. The students at Community were not feeling good. People in the African American community and the friends of the African American community were not feeling good.
What do you think about the movements nowadays? You had said at one point that this made other things happen.
Yeah, it spurned several years later things like the entry of an African American, a serious entrant into the 1971 mayoral primary. And as you know, 8 years later, 12 years later, an African American in 1983 was elected mayor of Philadelphia. And all of that, a lot of that momentum came from what happened then. And there was a whole different, the young African Americans who were participants there spurred change in the society.
What would you think people should take away from this experience that the students had at that time, back in '67?
Don't be apathetic. Do something. Sit down, make it a well thought out process, and keep moving. There are going to be setbacks, but there is also going to be movement forward.
Is there anything else you can tell us about this event and the things that were going on around it and the aftermath?
No, I just know that it caused the birth of the Concerned Citizens Councils around Philadelphia, of which Hardy Williams was sort of like a de facto chairperson. And next thing you know, Hardy Williams was elected to public office about 3 years later. And he'd also run for city council of the Democratic nomination back in '67. And but he won a seat in the State House. I think it was in 1970, and in '71 he ran for mayor. And he spurred a lot of the black independent political thought in the town.
Excellent. And you don't mind having this placed on the internet? Or,
No, I do not.
would you mind having any of this broadcast basically for
You're
John?
more than welcome. I stand behind what I say.
Well, I'd like to thank you again, Mr. Benson. And is there any closing wording that you would like to let us know about on this?
No, not really, except keep pushing.
Thank you much. That's James Benson, and we're here at Temple University's Paley Library, and we'll be dealing with the 17th of November 1967 school board demonstration in coming situations of view.